So this video is just going to go through some of the basic graphing techniques and options that you have with Graphmatica. So to type in an equation, we do that in this white box up here. So we can type in y equals x, our most basic straight line graph. We know that goes through the coordinate 0, 0. Press enter. So just type it in and press enter. It's in pink. You can change the color if you like, just by right-clicking on the graph. Pick graph color. I'm going to leave it as pink, but you can change it to whichever color you like. If you want to change it to blue. Line style, I tend to leave it as a solid line unless we're looking at something different, like in equations. So it's really just graph color that we're looking at the moment. You can, of course, delete the graph, hide the graph. All right, so here we have our straight line. The equation of the line, if you put your cursor on top of it, so there's the cursor, in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, which is down here, you will see the point that where your cursor is on the axis, as well as the equation of the graph. So that if we put our cursor on top of there, the equation is y equals x, and it is the same color as the actual graph, and it tells you the coordinate at that point. So if I try and put it on the origin 0, 0, you'll notice when it's on 0, 0 on that bottom left-hand corner, you'll see it says 0 in a blue box, or blue bracket, I should say. That means that that's the x-intercept, and we know that because x equals 0. So when it says 0, that's referring to saying that coordinate is the x-intercept. So we've got that line. Now let's type y equals, before we do that, actually, let's just look at the gradient. You've looked at this in the videos, but the gradient of this is 1, and we know that because there's a 1 in front of the x. You can write that if you like, the 1 in there, but you don't need to. It's implied. So the gradient, pick a point here, 1, 1. So the coordinate 1, 1. Let's select this coordinate 0, 0. Rise over run. So rise is 1, run is 1. And there's a positive gradient. So 1 divided by 1 is 1. So hence the gradient is 1. Let's type y equals 5x. Enter. The gradient is 5. We know that by looking at the equation. If we put our cursor on top of that graph, we see y equals 5x in the bottom left-hand corner. Again, if you want, you can right-click and change the color of the graph. I'm going to leave it because I can see it quite well, so that's fine. I cannot, however, see a lot of that graph. I can't see the top part very well. So there's a few ways you could do that. You can see up here, you can zoom in, zoom out. You can zoom out if you like, but that changes the scale. So you can zoom in, zoom out, but a better way would be if you went to, let's find it, view, grid range. And you'll see the grid range is this window that you see in front of you. So the left, I don't need to see minus 16. I'm going to change that to a bit smaller. I'm going to change it to say minus 8 to positive 8. But my bottom, I might change that to minus 10 to positive 10. So the top, so left minus 8 to 8 I want to see, and bottom minus 10 and top to 10, just so I can see a bit more up here. Okay, and you can see that the that is changed, so I can see it a little bit better. So that's handy to know how to do. So view grid range, and sometimes you need to play around with that a little bit. What else have we got? Well, you can type an equation in like y equals 2x plus 1. Okay, and if we put our cursor on top, it's green. Down the bottom on the left-hand side, I see the equation in green. I can find the y-intercept there. 0, 1 it's shown. Down the bottom on the left-hand side. I can clear my graph, so I can either right-click and delete them individually. In order to do that, I need to get my cursor, right-click, and delete my graph individually. I can do it a different way and go to Edit, Delete Graph. That will delete the latest one. I can delete all graphs, or these options up here are quite handy. If I go to clear screen, it will delete them all. So there's a few ways to delete graphs. Let's pick some special lines, which you will have seen in the videos and are in the worksheet. So something like y equals 4, which is a straight line that is a horizontal line that goes through y equals 4 and has a gradient of 0. So that one there. Let's then type x equals -2, which is a vertical line that goes through x equals -2 and does not have a gradient. It's undefined. And so, you know, you can graph all different types of graphs. Now, you can, of course, graph not only straight lines. You can graph other types of graphs as well, which I'm not going to look at in this video, but you might be curious to play around with that if you want. And we'll probably look at that a little bit in the next few lessons, just so you can see how it works. What else can we do? Well, say I want to print. We've looked at how to copy this graph in black and white. You can copy it in color. So if we go edit, copy BMP, and instead of monochrome, which is what you did last week, you just press color. And if we go to a Word doc, you can just paste it. Just go Control V or edit paste, and that'll paste this in color. You can also change your graph paper if you like. Leave it on rectangular because we're looking at straight lines. But you can, if you like, change the grid level detail. I don't mind the grid lines because it sort of differentiates between a straight line. You can see around and play with these and see what these do. I'll leave you to have a go at that. Also, labels. So if you want a title, if you want to label you know, the left side, right hand side, if you want to change the title of your axis. So in this case, our horizontal axis is X, our vertical axis is Y. But say it was an application question, X might be minutes, for example. Y might be dollars. So you could change that. Also colors. We've got this gray in the background, but you might want to change it to a different color. So, you know, and you can play around with different sorts of legends, axes, and you can see the different graphs are set already to different colors. But you can play around with that. I guess my best piece of advice, and again with fonts, my best piece of advice is to make sure that it's clear, because that's the most important thing. I wouldn't say that this is the best option, but it's probably better than some of the other options. So you can play around with that and see what works. So we've looked at that. To make a new graph, you can just go File, New, if you don't need to save this. If you need to save it, you File, Save As, and you can save it on your computer. We've looked at pretty much everything here. Another thing you can do is annotations. So if you go annotations, you can type in x equals -2, and some of you might have done this last week in the challenge, x equals -2, and then click place. And then you place it next to that graph, which is quite handy. And you can do that for coordinates as well. In view, so you've got zoom in, zoom out, which you also have over here. We've looked at data plot editor. Graph paper we looked at. Settings, we're not going to play with that too much today. And evaluate and find intersection, we will look at them a little bit more next week. The only other thing I want to talk about for today is the help function. So there might be something here that I've talked about that you might want some more information on, or there might be something that I haven't talked about and you're curious about. So if you finish the worksheet today and the activities at the end, you can always go to contents and search and have a look at that because that's quite handy. But we will be looking at a few other features of Graphmatica next week as well that we haven't talked about today. So the most important thing is that you know how to graph today. You know how to put in an annotation. So that was in Edit Annotation. If you want to delete an annotation, by the way, just right-click on it And you can do all these various things, edit, move, delete. And you can also copy in color, and doing it that way as well. And you can change your axes, so and change your grid range. So view grid range. All right, I'll leave you to it, and you can have a go at the worksheet.